So, hello everyone, and welcome to today's session. We really appreciate you joining us today and hope that you will find it useful. So, thank you very much. Yeah, and just to know that you can hear me well, could you please write in the chat what's the time where you are now? Because it's already getting dark in here. We're in Belarus, Eastern Europe. So. Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. So I'm Dmitry, and my colleague's name is Natalie. I think she's joining us soon. Natalie, can you say hello to us?
Hello everybody.
Okay, so we will talk about ourselves a little bit later. Yeah, so I need to inform you that today we're going to experiment a bit with the format, as the main part of the webinar was pre-recorded. But we'll have a live Q&A section at the end of the recording, so feel free to write to us, and we'll answer all of your questions at the end of the pre-recorded section in the Q&A. So yeah, we put some breaks for you to ask questions in the video, and I hope we won't bombard you with information too much. Yeah, and a recorded version of this webinar will be available on demand, of course. And if you're watching this after the webinar, feel free to ask any questions via email, and I will try to answer you later. Well, I think we can start. So see you in a moment. Hey there again. So before we move on to the main topic of the webinar and start talking about project management, dashboards, and Confluence, and making decisions based on data from Jira and Bitbucket, and all of the serious stuff that you're here for, let us say a few words about us and about our company. So my name is Dmitry, and my colleague's name is Natalie. We are product analysts at StiltSoft. StiltSoft is quite a young company, but we've already received recognition as Platinum Top Vendor at Atlassian Marketplace and Atlassian Silver Solution Partner. We are proud that more than 4,000, hopefully happy customers worldwide are using our products every day. And with more than 20 apps on the Atlassian Marketplace, we try to make their working process simpler and more productive. We create apps for Confluence, Jira, and Bitbucket, and our top-selling apps are data center approved and available in hosted and cloud versions. Well, nice to meet you all, and let's get back to our topic. So, project management, well, it's a cross-discipline position that requires communication skills and flexibility. And as a rule, a project manager combines technical and business experience to be brilliant in running projects. And I think it's important to note at this point that we are not trying to teach you like the right way of doing project management, but want to show you the tools that can help you make data-driven decisions and that we personally find useful and use ourselves. So Atlassian tools such as Jira and Bitbucket provide all the vital information on how the technical aspects of a project run. In Jira, we track tasks, we plan sprints and releases. In Bitbucket, we can collaborate in real time and see how the code is written and how our products basically come to life. At the same time, Confluence allows us to piece all this information together and create dashboards for daily tracking processes, where you can look back at what has been done and plan new releases. Here, it's vital to create easy to understand reports for management and stakeholders with all the technical and business metrics visualized. As the out-of-the-box set of features is not always enough to perform complicated tasks, we'll use two of our top-rated apps to enhance the default functionality and turn your Confluence instance in a full-fledged BI tool. So the first one is the Awesome Graphs for Bitbucket app. It allows you to track and monitor projects and repositories with visualized statistics. And in today's case, we use the app as a data provider. Using the expert to CSV feature, we can retrieve the data about commits and pull requests from Bitbucket to be further aggregated in Confluence alongside with the data from Jira. And the second app used as the means of aggregation is Table Filter and Charts for Confluence. It allows us to process any kind of table data in Confluence and merge the information from different sources and so much more actually. But today we'll rely on the synergistic effect of these two tools to create our dashboard that you came here for. And Natalie will show us what it looks like. Natalie, will you?
Yes, sure. Please take a look at the following dashboard. We've broken it down into two parts. The first one displays multiple graphs for daily tracking project progress. This part includes a Gantt chart, an open versus resolved issues chart, commits dynamics, and pull request dynamics charts. The second part allows us to retrospective the results of a finished sprint or iteration and find ways to perform better in a new one. It includes the following graphs: pull request by state, pull request Gantt chart, activity graph, and the last one is the velocity graph. Now we'll talk about each of the graphs separately. Please don't forget to ask questions. We're happy to answer them. As I said, the first portion of charts will help us to monitor the project, because during the project implementation we are constantly adding new tasks, features, and bugs. That's why we need to visualize the dynamics of the project backlog to find the bottlenecks, when the amount of work to do is several times as high as the amount of work the team can actually perform. The created versus resolved issues report is a difference chart. It displays the number of created issues versus resolved issues over a given time period. Let's switch to the editor. We are building this chart based on the Jira Issues macro. This macro pulls data from Jira according to a JQL or a link to a filter. You can display all the fields from Jira, including custom fields, and further work with this data. With the help of the macro combination, we calculate the cumulative amount of created and resolved issues and add these values to the chart. So let me show you. Here you can see two pivot tables with accumulated sums of created and resolved issues. And to build our chart, we just select created and resolved dates column. So this chart helps us to understand whether the overall backlog is moving towards resolution or not. In our example, the backlog is growing at a faster rate, but resolving issues doesn't stand still as well. Our project implementation has no sudden fluctuations. Okay, we've included multiple tasks from our backlog to our current sprint. There are two key ways of task estimation: by time and by story points. The following charts allow us to keep an eye on how the sprint goes. The first one is a Gantt chart type. In my opinion, a Gantt chart is one of the best tools for a quick overview of the whole project or sprint. Please let me know in chat if you agree with me or not, and if you are using a Gantt chart in your practice. In general, a Gantt chart is a timeline that is used to illustrate how the project will run. You can view what tasks are included in a project or a sprint, start and end dates of a project or a sprint, also task duration, and who works on a particular task. I built a Gantt chart based on the same Jira issues macro, displaying our issues from Jira. And to build a basic Gantt chart, you need just 3 columns. The first one is the labels column. Here it is the sprint column. And 2 columns with dates, start and end dates. You can use any columns, the default columns or custom columns, but I use the created and due date columns. If you have some events or milestones, you can also add them to your Gantt chart. You can see milestones as stars and events as vertical lines. The milestones are connected with the particular tasks, and events are common for the whole project. To add these milestones and events, I have added 2 small tables inside one chart from table macro. The first one is for milestones and the second one is for events. One more great option is the ability to add the column with percentage values to display the completion ratio. Here I've added this column with the help of the table transformer macro and calculated it based on the task statuses and spent and remaining estimates. So we just add this column to the values column, and now we can see the percentage. For example, the first task is completed on 68%, and when we click this particular bar, we can see our source table filtered and find more information about our task or switch to Jira. You can also easily play with this chart. For example, we can reorganize it and remove sprint and add assignee instead of sprints. And now we can see now we can see what tasks are assigned to each of our employees. Yeah, and then let's go back to the sprint view. Okay, now we can visualize all the tasks and phases of the project and find critical points. For example, where one assignee has a critical load, or depending on each other tasks are planned on the same time slot, for example. In general, the chart helps to optimize task planning and distribution. One more common and widely used method to track the progress towards the sprint completion is building burn-up and burn-down charts. Today we will build a burn-down chart. This chart displays the total amount of work in story points that a team should complete during the sprint. An orange line, this one, is the amount of work left. Our tasks are literally burned in conjunction with their completion. On the last day of a sprint, no significant tasks should be left. A purple line, this one, displays how the sprint should run in the ideal world, where all the efforts are distributed equally. Okay, to build a burndown chart, we use the transform Jira issues macro for the actual line and a manually created table with the total amount of story points committed as an ideal line. And now we can get a clean idea of a sprint's progress. We see if we tend to complete all the tasks in time. If not, we need to investigate the reasons of this issue and reduce workload. Now that's enough for Jira. Let's have a look at the developer's metrics. Dmitry will tell us about them.
Thanks. So now we come to the engineering metrics, which can give you insights into the development process. Uh, at the stage of monitoring progress during the sprint, it's necessary to see the actual change over time. And here we offer you the charts that will show the dynamics of contributions in terms of commits and pull requests made by users over the chosen period. So here you can see the first one showing the commits dynamics grouped by week, um, and the similar second one with pull requests. Using them, you can then compare the periods and answer the questions like, are we committing more code now than before, if that's important to you, and see the trends in pull requests. Um, well, during the daily meetings, we try to spot out the difficulties that appear in the processes, and these charts can bring more transparency to them. For example, if you keep your tasks between a day or two and you see that one of the developers hasn't committed in a few days, maybe it's time to talk and find out what difficulties they might have. And by the way, let me show you how you can get this kind of chart. In this and in all of the charts that I will describe to you today, we use the Awesome Graphs app as a data provider and export the lists of commits or pull requests into Confluence using the export to CSV feature. Then here in Confluence, we build the table from the CSV with the respective macro from table filter and charts. Then we pivot the table and make the chart from it. And by the way, at the charts displayed, you saw the commits and pull requests grouped by week. But if you need to dig deeper or, on the contrary, zoom out a bit, actually you can change the grouping to daily or monthly by changing the date period aggregation in the pivot table macro settings right here. So you can choose none, hour, day, week, month, quarter, year, whatever works for you. So at this point, we can say that we are halfway through, and now we move to the second part of the dashboard that contains graphs and charts that can be useful at the end of the sprint, during the sprint review, and particularly after the sprint, during the sprint retrospective, when the team has an opportunity to inspect itself and create a plan for improvements to be enacted during the next sprint. Now, the first chart in the section shows the number of pull requests grouped by state and comes in two variants. In the first one, pull requests are grouped by repository, and in the second one, by user. Well, looking at these charts, you can identify if there were any problems in teams working in the same repos, or you can see how much each person managed to do during the sprint and use these insights in future sprint planning. For example, if you see that there were a lot of declined pull requests during the sprint, this could probably mean that there were some problems in team arrangement. So this is a perfect occasion to discuss them and resolve them. One more point to consider is the number of open pull requests at the end of the sprint. You need to count them in if you want to predict whether you'll be able to complete work on time in the next sprints. Analyzing the pull requests can help you in learning how to predict delivery times accurately, but you'll also need to learn how to measure the lifetime of pull requests, and this is where our next chart comes in. Now, the pull request Gantt chart. This is probably my favorite one of all, just because I think it's beautiful. So it shows the pull requests of each user, their length, uh, and their status. So it can give your team an understanding of how long the pull requests take to merge. Um, so it can help you predict using historical data if your team can finish the tasks by the end of the sprint. Or it also can be helpful as it shows the changes, if there were any, in the pull request's lifetime after the new processes have been implemented. Well, to make realistic predictions, you need to look at the average age of the pull request created by the author. That is how quickly a specific author's pull requests were moving historically. If a developer is a junior or new to a particular repository or a project, they tend to make more mistakes, or they're subjected to more thorough reviews and testing, which potentially delays their pull requests, which you evidently need to consider in your planning. Your ideal basis for planning will be the user with a set of colorful bricks of almost the same size, as they will probably tend to follow the accepted practice. One more thing that you can pay attention to is the case when a pull request, or especially FU, as in this case, are closed by the very end of the sprint. This could be a sign that the author was hurrying to meet the deadline, which might be the result of review delays or just carelessness. So you need to keep that in mind. Yep. And the last one from me today is the daily activity chart, which is made to help you know what everybody was doing during the sprint in terms of commits, pull requests, Jira issues, and meetings. And while this one might look a bit messy at first, you can make it prettier and a little bit more informative by choosing uh, 4 or 5 people at once. So I know which ones to leave out. Yeah, so you can get a little bit more informative picture. In this one, we come a little bit closer to the real capabilities of table filter as we merge data from different sources into one table and then build a chart from it. Just look at all those macros. Yeah. So the idea behind it is that predictions based on engineering metrics are great. Still, even a few calls or meetings can slow down the processes. That's why you need to look at who does what, identify bottlenecks, and manage the processes so there are few or no obstacles or reasons for delays in production. You can determine who's spreading themselves too thin and find those who are not actively involved. um, yeah, it's evident that if you expect active development from your engineers and they are stuck in a series of meetings, probably won't work. So using this metrics, you can understand why the team is moving with such speed and how the changes in the processes affect the team's dynamics. So I think that's enough for Bitbucket data. Let's come back to Natalie and the data from Jira.
Thank you, Dmitry. And the last but not the least thing when we look back on the finished iteration is calculating velocity. When we plan a new sprint, we should take into account the information about story points performance in the previous sprints. So we can observe the trends, make some conclusions, and change the approach to planning if needed. For example, we can calculate an average number of story points completed within one sprint. what its actual velocity is, and stick to this value in the following sprints. And after that, as more data about finished sprints is accumulated, we can plan much more accurately. To calculate velocity, we transform the Jira issues macro and build a column chart to visualize this data. Our column chart is based on two columns, the sum of story points committed and the sum of story points completed. And in the velocity column, you can find the average number of story points, taking into account the sprint's history. Now it's time to visualize our dashboard. The best solution here is to create all the charts and graphs based on the one source of data. I mean, if we use the Jira issues macro for multiple charts and graphs, we can use just one Jira issues macro to maintain it and to improve the page performance. The table excerpt and table excerpt include macros give us this ability. Their functionality is similar to the default excerpt and excerpt include macros, but is much more extended. With their help, you can include excerpts from multiple sources, including the current page. Let's have a look. On this dashboard, I've added some charts from the previous examples, and I wrapped the Jira issues macro in the table excerpt macro and gave it a unique name. Then I insert this table with the help of the table excerpt include macro multiple times using this unique name. Lots of Confluence default tools and third-party macros can help you with the design of your dashboard. For example, here I've chosen simple layouts in combination with the panel macro. And I suppose that is it. I think you will succeed when it comes to creating your own report after this webinar. So yeah, and for Q&A part, we are coming back live in the future in a couple of moments. So get ready for this. Thank you for watching. Hello. Hello again. So yeah, we have a couple of questions unanswered in our chat. The first one is, wish you could show the data or how the data is imported. Could you please clarify in what chat do you mean? Maybe when we use the Bitbucket statistics? And the second question is, do the clickable users on the top right automatically include it or setting? And also, could you please clarify what of the charts do you mean? And I'll share my screen and show you this and answer the question. Thank you. Okay, does everybody hear me well? Dmitry, can you hear me?
Yep, but can are you sharing the screen now?
Okay, I'll share my screen and show how the data is exported, maybe in some of the commit dynamics chart, for example. Okay, so here is the commit dynamics chart, and in the page edit mode, we use the table from CSV macro, where we select the attached CSV file and this file is previously exported from Bitbucket and imported and attached as a attachment here in Confluence.
Yeah, so to actually export the data, you need to use the Awesome Graphs for Bitbucket plugin, and it's being exported from the people page in your Bitbucket instance. So you will have to use the export feature right there. And then you put this information in form of CSV file and build the table from it.
Okay, so yeah, we are requested to show any examples that uses transformer table macro. Okay, so let me show you one more example. For example, let's see it here in the open versus resolved issues chart. Actually, we have most of these examples, I suppose all of these examples on our documentation site, and we'll send you all the useful links for all these use cases via mail. And now here you can see that our chart is built with two lines. The first line uses the following pivot table. Here we calculate the number of created issues every day on each date, and after that we calculate the cumulative sum with the help of the table transformer macro. So yeah, this is a simple, quite simple SQL query, and you will also find it on our documentation site on the page with this chart. Yeah, we have more questions. Yeah, did you create the pivot table or did you generate the data from Jira? First of all, we pull all the data from Jira with the help of the Jira issues macro. So here it is. Here, this is the default Jira issues macro. Here we just use the simplest JQL. The project is ECS, and here we select all the columns that we need to build our chart, and we select the number of issue to display. And after that, we aggregate our data from Jira with the help of pivot table, table transformer, and so on, depending on your case. The app and the macros are super flexible, so using different combinations, you can perform any use cases, resolve any tasks. If you have any, for example, if you have a use case that you need to resolve, please feel free to contact us, our support, because almost every day we help our users with SQLs, with macro combinations, and so on. Yeah, and also all this functionality you can also find in the cloud version. So it's not a problem. You can use all the macros in cloud as well.
Do we have any more questions?
Okay, what if I have two different Jira instances? How do I build a dashboard combining data from both? Yes, this is possible, absolutely, because first of all, before using the Jira issues macro, you need to ask your administrator to link two instances, Confluence and Jira. And the administrator can do this in the administration panel, of course, and allow two instances to pull and receive data from each other. And you just, let me show you. For example, here, if you have multiple linked Jira instances, here you will see the drop-down list next to the JQL input, where you can select the particular instance that you'd like to pull information from. So that's not a problem. We have more questions. Can I build a Gantt chart from 2 Jira instances? Yeah, as I said, you can pull data from multiple instances. You will have 2 Jira issues macros. You can leave them as it is, or you can merge these 2 macros to build one common table, one more common source table with the help of the table transformer. I'm just starting to use Confluence and macros. So this was informative. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for such a positive feedback. We will ask you to leave your feedback right after the session. Thank you so much. We are using the enterprise version of Jira. Would the creation of charts be possible? Could you please clarify, maybe in chart, what do you mean?
Natalie, I think they mean that they use data center versions of the apps.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Dmitry. Yes, the table filtering charts app is data center certified. Actually, it has all the 3 versions: for server, for data center, and for cloud, and all the functionality is supported. Yeah, Nancy, as I said, you can select one particular instance in one Jira issues macro. So you want to add multiple Jira issues macros, one from one instance and the second one from another instance, and then you can place within the chart from table macro body multiple macros, multiple tables, and so on. You can use multiple Jira issues macros from different instances to build a chart. How do I merge the 2 Jira queries with which macro? I have no example, but actually I can share the screen again and show you how it works. For example, this is the first one, Jira issues macro. And this is the second one. This is from one Jira instance, and this is from the second one. Then we use the table transformer macro. Here you can see 2 default presets for merging tables and for, let's say, joining tables. This is the same as lookup function in Excel. And we place 2 our Jira macros and merge them in the table transformer. The query is super simple, and as a result, we get one common table. But you can also, you don't need, if you have the same column names, you don't need to merge these 2 tables. You can just, to this macros, you can just place them within one chart from table macro. And the macro will get all the information from both tables. Yeah. I think that's all for now. Any other questions? You're welcome. Yeah, I can actually, have you already used any of the macros we mentioned? Maybe the table filtering charts app or the Awesome Graphs for Bitbucket app? One more question. Are there more examples in the documentation? Yes, I'll send. Now I'll add the link to our documentation site. We have all the examples. The first one is the first dashboard with the Jira issues, macros, and all the stuff connected with this macro here, and all the Bitbucket charts and information is here. In the documentation, you can also find Burndown Chart, some aggregation and calculation data about time estimation, and more. Today we have shown you multiple examples of combinations with the Jira issues macro and the table from CSV macro. I just want to mention that, for example, the table filtering charts app work with all kind of tables. For example, is these Jira issues, manually created tables, page properties report, and any other content that is displayed as tables in Confluence. Okay, we have more questions. How did you use Jira fields to calculate % completion? Okay, here in this example, I've used multiple columns. Right here, with the help of the table transformer macro, I suppose you can see my screen. Yep. So I set some conditions with the help of the table transformer macro. In case the status is done, the completion ratio is 100%. If the status is to do, the completion ratio is 0. And all the other cases we calculate with the help of time spent and remaining estimate. So we calculate the percentage of time spent that is completed as the part of our task completed. This use case is also on our documentation site here. Oh, this is about dashboard. Yeah, building a Gantt chart, and here you will find all the queries and all the information that you need to, right here. When the status is done, the ratio is 100 and so on.
Okay, do you see that? One more question, like we use table filter it already for the ART reporting. Do you know ART?
Oh, unfortunately, no. Maybe yes, but with this short.
Probably they need to clarify a little bit because we.
Yeah, could you please in chat or here in Q&A section? Okay. Yeah, I have one question from you about earned value management method. Yeah, and I'll try to find more information about this method, and I'll let you know what we can do with this via email. I'll write it down. So actually, I want to clarify a bit. We can work with the Jira issues macro. In the Jira issues macro, you can display all the fields from Jira, including the default fields and the custom fields. So in case we have the information that we need for these methods in the Jira issues macro in Jira fields, So we can play with it. We can play with them and try to resolve this use case. The app and all the macros are super flexible. You can wrap it multiple times in each other and to get the result that you want. Yes, Nancy, I've sent links in the chat.
Yeah, I've doubled it. There was some mistake with that, so that's fine. That's fine.
Sorry.
I fixed that.
Thank you, Dmitry.
Okay. Okay. So, any more questions?
Okay, and besides the Jira and Confluence platforms, does someone use Bitbucket? Because as far as I know, it's not so common as Jira or Confluence. Was these examples useful for you?
Apparently not.
Okay. Oh, you use Jira, Confluence, and Bitbucket. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And have you already tried to use Awesome Graphs for Bitbucket? Our solution for gathering statistics?
You should. It's good.
Yeah, maybe Dmitry can tell us a few words about charts and examples that we can find in Awesome Graphs for Bitbucket.
Well, yeah, Awesome Graphs for Bitbucket allows you to visualize the statistics from Bitbucket and gives you a whole lot of charts, graphs, and everything that you basically need to visualize and analyze the whole performance. So we have questions. We will now start using charts.
Yeah, that's great. Please, again, feel free to contact us. Our support is super responsive, and we can arrange a demonstration if you'd like.
And if you don't know how to build something, you can always just describe your case, and we will do our best to help you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks so much. Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you so much for taking your time for this webinar.
Okay, so if there are no questions in 30 seconds, I think it's time to go to bed. Yeah. Okay, and the docs page looks great. Somebody in chat said, "Oh, thank you." Yeah, we have redesigned that.
Thank you. If you remember any other questions, or if you're watching this webinar in recording, please write us via email, ask your questions.
Okay, so I think that will do for today. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking your time and visiting our webinar today. This is our first shot. And yeah, I suppose it was useful and informative. Please leave your feedback in our Google form that we will send you right here and right now. So thank you so much. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening in all the time zones. And I suppose see you again